Hey folks, welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. How about an early November garden tour? Well, things are looking wonderful in the garden. This is my fall/winter garden. Much of this garden is going to carry me into the spring, and there's a lot going on. If you followed my videos, then you've seen us prepare these gardens and transition from summer into fall. You've seen how we've gone and flame weeded, how we've prepared the soil and amended the soil, how we've sown our seeds, and now it's time to take a look around at progress. Let's start here up by the patio with my little 6x2 raised bed. These are radishes. They're doing really well. Look at all that leafy growth. Now they're not bulbing up yet, but you can see they're very healthy. You can eat radish greens. I don't find them tasteful. And we do have some weeds growing down in here. That's chickweed, and it's real common. You can actually eat chickweed too. It's good in salads, so they say. Got my little pepper here. This is a habanada. Something happened to this one here, and it's dead. But this one's still putting on a little bit of fruit. There's some down there. These are habaneros that have no heat. So if you like the flavor of habaneros, that's a good choice. If you don't like the heat. Here's a couple of romaine starting to get a little dense in the middle. I just plugged those in because I like romaine lettuce. My jalapeno is putting on some beautiful dark glossy fruits here. There's a bunch of them here. I'm going to let them get a little bit red and then I'll pick them. And this will probably not produce any more peppers unless it lives through the winter. It's looking a little ragged. These spots here you see, that's leaf miners, and my peppers generally get leaf miners. Not much you can do about them once you see them. So just keep your plant well fertilized. But yeah, it's nice to have peppers, fresh jalapenos in November. Peppers generally don't set fruit even if they blossom in the winter. I should say many varieties of peppers don't set fruit unless the temperatures are right. And so these peppers, these are old veteran peppers. You can see they're all gnarly. They might make it, we'll see, through the winter. This one probably not. This one is dying, and it's not for a lack of trying. I've been treating this particular one the same as all the others. So yeah, here's another pepper plant over here with lots of blossoms. Some of them are making peppers. We'll see. That's a Thai chili pepper. You can see the leaf miners have really attacked this plant, and almost every leaf has leaf miner damage, but the plant's still growing, it's still producing. And after I gave this some fertilizer recently, it's really darkened up a bit. So yeah, this is an old gnarly veteran pepper plant, and you can see it's a veteran because it survived the onslaught of all of these miners. But you can see the new growth isn't nearly as plagued, although there's some damage. The new growth is what's helping this plant overcome all of that attack. I've been enjoying some figs from my fig trees as they are confused. You can see that fig rust is here. It usually comes in the fall, and the figs begin dropping their leaves. As you can see, this one's got new leaves coming on because of the unnaturally warm snap we've had after a little bit of a cold spell. But it's the length of day that usually sends a plant into hibernation. And so as the days have been dropping off and getting shorter, these plants are going into hibernation. They have just sat out in the hot sun all day, so they're a little bit droopy. But yeah, I'm still getting some figs. They're small figs. In fact, here's one ready. This is, well, this is a Hunt, I believe. Yes, Hunt. Now I'm going to eat this, and my dog will want to eat it. There she is back there. She's a fig bandit, but this is for me. It's one of my favorite ones so far. And so there remains a lot of confusion on my fig trees. They don't know whether to fruit or go dormant. So we're getting a little bit of both, but lots of figs, lots of fruit. Some of them are really pretty and stunning. All right, over to the garden beds. These are my peas. And these are said to not really need trellising. You can just let peas sprawl. They do better on a trellis. This variety over here gets a little tall and leggy, so I'm going to put some tomato trellises in here and let them crawl up there, those things. I don't anticipate they'll get much bigger than that, and if they do, oh well. Here's the radishes over here that I planted. I had a bad germination rate on my spinach. There's some spinach right there. It seems like only this row came up and a couple of others. So I planted some radishes. Actually, I think those are turnips over there and these are radishes. So yeah, finding space where you got it. Just plug some things in. Here's where it pays to actually look at your label. These are black radishes growing over here. And they're very strong, very powerful radishes. They're not my favorite, but they're stunning in the way they look. So we'll see. Maybe I'll give them a second chance. And these here on the end are turnips. Typical purple top white globe turnips. I had some nice ones last year and I saved the seed. But I did a viability test on that seed and yeah, it didn't work out. I stored it wrong. I left them hanging in my garage too long to dry out, and all the heat rendered those unviable. In bed number 2, I plugged in some more radishes just to make good use of that space. And there's our lettuce from the lettuce planting video, the last video we looked at. And these are cabbages, and they're doing really nice. I do want to show you a difference that spacing makes. One of my comments recently was talking about intensive gardening and spacing cabbages closer together, and you certainly can do that, but I want to show you, especially with brassicas, with cabbages like this, if you space them out widely and you give them an opportunity to send their roots out far and wide, they go foraging and they mine for resources that way, and you can see how big they get. But look over here, this guy, these two were planted at the same time, and they're planted among these beets here, and you see that the competition for resources within the soil is a lot more intensive here. And while these will grow and they will get big enough to mature, they are going to be a lot slower. You can see that spacing has caused competition here, and that's the way it's going to be over here. I'll have to, fertilize more fervently, although you don't fertilize beets the same way you fertilize brassicas, so that might be a problem. But so wider spacing here gets you quicker results and larger plants sooner. Got some carrots growing over here, and I need to thin some of these, like these right here. This is about the spacing I want, although there's 2 plants. This is a good spacing here, and this is not. There's a lot of carrots in there. Now last year I just plucked them out. As I saw things like this in my carrot bed, I'd pluck a few out, but I'm just going to leave those there until they get a little bit bigger. But yeah, carrots are doing really well. Man, I love growing carrots. I love this foliage, and when it gets nice and dense, the whole thing blows in the wind and it looks like a field of fur. I love these carrots. So they're doing really well. Right next to them I've got beets growing, and I like to grow beets, especially to juice the beets. These are probably the healthiest beets I've seen in years. These are nice looking beets. And I've got a couple of volunteer tomato plants coming up in the middle. I don't think they'll give me any tomatoes, but I'm going to let them try, because temperatures. Tomatoes require a certain temperature to have the fruit set, have the blossoms actually get pollinated. And I don't think we're going to have those temperatures, but I've got 1, 2, and there's another one over there that I just now noticed. So we'll see what kind of tomatoes they are, and if they're some hybrid of the various open pollinated heirlooms that I typically grow. We'll find out. Those tomato seeds will have arrived in this garden via compost, and that's what happens when your compost doesn't stay heated consistently, as the seeds make it through. Over here I've got some more radishes. These are also black radishes, and I put these in just to take this space up. I love to grow radishes. They're really fun to grow, and they're rewarding. And yeah, these have pretty decent spacing. So yeah, that's the middle bed. In one of my videos, I don't remember which one, but I talked about sowing seeds, and we just sprinkled some seeds into this pot. And this is cilantro, also coriander, and it's coming up just fine. We'll be able to eat some of that soon. Got some pots here at the end of my garden. That's got some Morris heading collard greens. I don't know if you can grow collard greens in a pot, but that pot's just sitting there. I thought I'd try. Got some sweet potatoes volunteering here. And well, I don't think they're going to make it through the winter, but no sense in pulling them out if I'm not going to use this bucket for anything right now. So we'll see if what they do. Some more flowers that attract pollinators. Another pepper plant here that's looking worse for wear. Lots of blossoms though, but I don't think they're going to take. And then the final bed's got some Brussels sprouts in it and a whole bunch of different kinds of radishes. Those look like beets, but they're actually radishes. And these are my favorite kind of radishes over here. I've got several varieties going. In fact, here's all the varieties right here. We've got some Malaga radishes. Those are a nice dark purple radish. We've got some Chinese red meat, which is my favorite radish to eat. Got a Szechuan red and a Chinese China rose radish. So yeah, all these radishes, man, fun to grow. They'll be out of here before these Brussels sprouts need this space. Here's another pepper plant that I liked a lot, so I left it in here, and it's given me these peppers. They're smaller in the winter, but it's got some fruit on it. I wanted this fruit to mature. One last gasp for this plant, and then out he'll come. Here is some perpetual spinach. Perpetual spinach is a Swiss chard, and yeah, it takes a while for this stuff to come up, but once it does, and once it gets established, this stuff will grow and grow and grow through the winter. I've had snow on these guys, not these particular ones, but it's performed well for me. So yeah, perpetual spinach is a Swiss chard that tastes like spinach and acts like spinach, and I really enjoy it, so had to grow some. Got some more carrots over here. These are Parisian little short carrots. And the soil over here is a little more dense. Well, actually it doesn't feel dense, it just looks dense. But these should do fine. They'll also help break up any dense soil in there. I've plugged in another cabbage, or I don't know if that's a cabbage or a Brussels sprout. Phoebe, what do you got there? Huh? You got a stick? Shouldn't eat that. And then down at the end we've got a couple of cabbages, and I put these in as an afterthought next to my kale. This little kale transplant, it feels nice and tough and well rooted in there, but unfortunately this guy got set back. I accidentally stirrup hoed this one down, pulled it right out of the ground and knocked off a bunch of leaves, and so it's a little bit stunted, but that's okay. It's recovered quite nicely. It should look like its brothers here, nice and big. Start eating kale off of these right now if I wanted to, but I don't eat kale. Not often. These kales are for my son's chickens and for his geese. Donald, chill, buddy, chill. This right here, this is a volunteer. This is a, it's called Green Wave Mustard Greens, and I'm gonna let that grow because that was a good green, so I might as well let that grow. These grew here in the summer, and they were really delicious. So I grew these guys here, green beans along the edge here and along the edge here, and they bolted and went to seed at the end of the summer. So yeah, we'll see if that comes up. Man, I got some volunteers, huh? That's awesome. Look at that green. It's November. We got this lush greenery. That's awesome. See that? As I was filming, I saw this drop into my garden. That will be some sort of a weed, and I don't want that seed in there, so I'll just leave it out here. Here's the lettuce that we planted the other day. This is starting to perk up and get a little taut, starting to stand up again after being beat down by watering. Not all of them, but most of them. So yeah, it's looking good. Got some radishes growing in the whole stray seed that I dropped. More lettuce of different kinds. Yeah, everything's looking good. Again, man, look at this lush growth. I love these beets. During this dry spell we're having, we haven't had rain in several weeks. You got to keep your water, you got to keep your water on the plants almost every day. And one way you can test is to stick your finger down in the soil, and if it's dry beyond your first knuckle or second knuckle, it's dry beyond your second knuckle, you need to water. If it's dry beyond your first knuckle, you probably need to put some water on it too. But one of the reasons I have to water every single day is I don't have mulch on my garden yet. Mulch would help to retain moisture. You can't really put a bunch of mulch around these root crops here. They're too dense. So they kind of act as their own mulch. But around my cabbages back there, if I put some mulch down, that'll help retain moisture. Citrus is performing exceptionally well this year. Everything's ready to be harvested. We're going to have, like we did last year, we're going to do a family gathering and harvest all these lemons, or at least a lot of them. Make some lemon curd. Yeah, that's a ton of Meyer lemons. Just keep going and keep going. Now last year I opened up the center of this tree a little bit and did well, man. Put off some growth in the middle here. I don't want this tree to get any larger than it is because, as you can see, I can reach the tallest fruits and I can reach the middle of the tree. And I don't know about you, but that's all the lemons I need for a while. So keeping a tree small like this is a good way to manage your citrus trees. That's as big as it's going to get. I will trim it back. That will come off. Some of these tall branches reaching up that way will come off. And we'll keep a small fruit tree. Look at all that fruit. That's crazy. It's just everywhere. This one is a Sanguinelli blood orange, and I purchased this about this time last year, and it was a small little fella in that pot. Actually, I potted them up, but there are 3 fruit on here. I probably should have only left 1, but they're turning. They're starting to ripen up, so I'm looking forward to that. I should take that one off. Let this tree focus on growth. Right next to it, I've got a key lime, and it's got a little fruit here and there on it, and some blossoms. So yeah, these will stay in pots for a while at least, till I find somewhere to put them. But I'm more prone to kind of leave those in pots and just grow them in a large pot and keep a small tree. Sweet potatoes. I've got some sweet potatoes down in here. It's about time to harvest these, but I've been letting them go just to see what will happen if I leave these longer than the ones I harvested almost a month and a half ago. So we'll see. So there it is, just a small tour of the garden. Not too terribly much moving quickly in the garden. That's the nature of fall gardening. But I wanted to give you an update, and I try to do an update, a garden tour about once a month, sometimes twice a month if we've got a really fast growing season. But yeah, right now everything's looking great. Thanks for joining us on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. I really appreciate you guys and all your comments. Please follow us on Facebook and on Instagram, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't subscribed. That's really helpful, really encouraging, keeps us doing videos. So y'all take care. Happy gardening. Bye-bye.